one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sorry for the delay. Our previous meeting went a little bit long. We are missing a couple people today who have either illness or other commitment they had to be at. So it's just the three of us. I do not have anybody that's wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items. Can I get an approval, a motion and a second for approval of the minutes of the meetings on March 6th, 11th, and 25th, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Those minutes are approved. Can I get a motion and a second to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no conflicts of interest today. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The consent agenda is approved. And now we will move on to the reports of the president, and we will start with our Department of Corrections welding certificate information.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Board. I'm going to be Elder, Southeast Tech. Today, I'm very excited and proud to provide a report to the board on our collaboration between Southeast Tech, the South Dakota Department of Corrections, and the South Dakota Department of Labor and Regulations. A little over 2 years ago, Southeast Tech was approached by the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Corrections about collaborating to provide an opportunity for individuals who are pending release to come to Southeast Tech and earn a welding certificate. The goal and the purpose was to provide these individuals with a foundational occupation, skills, and training that will allow them upon release to enter into a high-demand career field. And this program is exceeding expectations. Looking at national average and what other states are doing, we are really doing a phenomenal job here in providing opportunities for these individuals who have been incarcerated and have had challenges with their lives to be able to redo something and provide them with a very tangible skill. But more importantly, it's meeting very high demand workforce needs and career opportunities within our community. The other very big plus about this is that it's not just having an effect on these individuals, it's having generational effect on their families and their children. They're being able to obtain high-paying careers that allow them to grow and provide for their families upon their release. Last summer at our celebration ceremony, one of the gentlemen stood up and spoke, and he said, "I'm over 50 years old, and I never thought in my entire life that I would ever earn a college diploma. But here I now stand getting ready to receive a college diploma at my age." Very moving to see how this has really transformed them. But there's not much I can really tell you. I think it's better to hear from those that are actually in the trenches making things happen. I'd like to introduce our math professor, Ms. Jill Vetras, our welding instructor, Mr. Leonard Skelly, along with Mr. Scott Day from the South Dakota Department of Corrections, one of the reentry managers, to really talk more about the program, what we are doing in collaboration with the Department of Corrections and the Department of Labor, and how we're really changing and affecting lives of these individuals and providing for our community. So if you don't mind coming forward, I'll let you guys take it over from here.
Not everybody at once, gosh.
All right, guess I'm up first. So I'm Jill Vetras, and I am in my second year as a math instructor at Southeast. I was in the Sioux Falls School District and middle school for 30 years, and then just made the switch over there. I got a call about 3 days before classes were supposed to start that first fall, saying, "Hey, Jill, what do you think about this?" And I'm like, "Yep, sign me up." And now Nick knows to never take that off my schedule, because it's my favorite part of the day is spending the days I get to spend with the guys. They are kind, considerate, they work hard, and they want to learn, and they're just right there. Here's my berry. They're just amazing. So it's been it's brought me so much joy, and professionally it's just really helped me to be the best instructor I can for them and to help them to develop into the great characters that they are. So it's a wonderful part of my day. So thank you for supporting the program, and I'm hoping to see it continue. And I would also love, I always put in my plug, if there's any way that we can figure out a way to do it with our juveniles as well, to help them get, right? Hey, I got an audience, so I'm gonna say it. If there's any way that we could get that going as well, so they can find that I have a path. I can get an education, even if I've made choices that are affecting me right now, I can turn it around. So I would love to figure out a way to do that as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Leonard Stelly. I got recruited when this program started. I was never really a teacher before this, and I kind of got the same call, the week before we had to start about this program. And yeah, it's been great teaching these guys. I guess the best way I could explain it is I have to go through new teacher training, right? What they call FAC 100 or FAC 200. And I hear of all these issues that they're trying to solve, right? Students showing up every day, and students doing their homework, and, all these different things. And how do we do better? How do we do better? And I'm sitting here like, yeah, I don't have those problems, I don't encounter those problems. These guys show up every day. They do all their homework on time. They're there to learn. They ask questions. They're outspoken, right? They're not very reserved, which is, in our field, a pretty good thing, And yeah, it's been easy, and trying to help these guys get jobs and all that. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I am Scott Day, the Reentry Program Manager for the State of South Dakota DOC. Pretty exciting stuff. The president actually just announced April as Second Chance Month, which would be any program like this, right? So I'm gonna lay down a few stats for you, just to kind of give an operational impact on what this does to recidivism, okay? We have had 42 offenders enter the program. Only 6 were terminated due to disciplinary. That was all internal DOC. That was never anything to do with campus. 36 graduated successfully. That's 85% of enrolled students have graduated. 30 out of the 36 gained AWS certification. That's 83%. 28 of the graduates are currently working in the welding field. They are currently on parole or either released from incarceration, supporting their families, doing what we all had planned of doing. That's that generational impact that Benjamin is talking about. Those kids get to see their mom or dad come back, be successful, stay out of the life that they feared they would go back to. And then we've had one, this is a big deal, we've had one receive early final discharge from the board, parole board, Barnes of Parole. That's one, getting off his sentence early because he's been so successful finishing this program. And then we have 15 currently in class attending on campus. We haven't had a single one get terminated this semester. We've really molded that qualification. It took time, right? It's just one of those things we had to really key in on, but we made a very solid qualification. You're getting the best of the best that we can offer, and these guys are really making an impact on the community as well as with their families. Now they just finished, I believe, a civil project we had them do for the school board for track and field with camera stands. So they're doing something to help give back to the community as well. Now I can keep giving you stats about how passionate I am about this and how it's so important to everybody, but I'm gonna give you a living, breathing reason why it's successful. Barry?
Hello.
Hi.
See, I was in the very first class, of this program, and I love it. I mean, everything about it was great. Before I took this class, I wasn't doing too good. On parole, I'd take off. I was a runner. I wouldn't last too long. But ever since I took this class, this is the longest I've been free since I can remember. I'm doing good. I have no write-ups, no nothing. I'm working. I work on 16th and Marion. I've been welding. It changed my life, really. I'm doing so good. I mean, I don't know, it's a blessing. I don't know how I got into this program, but I'm glad I did. You know, I mean, it changed my whole outlook on life. You know, before I took this class, you know, I mean, I was working at McDonald's, Burger King. Not saying those are bad jobs, but I mean, I can't picture myself doing that. I mean, I did it just because to meet requirements of parole. But now with this job, I mean, I look forward to going to work every day. I mean, it's not work. I mean, it's fun. You know, I hate the weekends because I don't go to work because, you know, I'm stuck doing nothing. So when I go to work, I mean, that's, you know, it's life changing. You know, I mean, I love it. I like it there. You know, I mean, it's something that I would recommend to someone else in my position. I would highly recommend them to take this class. You know, and being in prison, that is like the greatest environment to do it at Southeast Tech because there's no distractions. You know, everyone's off drugs. I mean, there's no females there. You know, it's the biggest distraction. You know, I mean, that's the yeah. You know, I mean, it's a great environment because we live together, we go to school together. After school, we come back, we study together. And with the inmates being how we are, we're very competitive with each other. So no one wants to get the lowest grade in class. So, you know, we study hard. You know, we held each other accountable. You know, my roommate, man, I used to wake him up middle of the night, like, hey, what does AWS stand for? You know, I mean, ask him welding questions. You know, I mean, I would. You know, I mean, that's how we learned what we learned. You know, I mean, we lived, breathed it, and we slept through it. You know, I mean, I love this. I love this place, man. I mean,
That's awesome.
I like it.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I think that's awesome to hear. Like you said, straight from the person who's being impacted. And I know when this first came to us, we were like, yeah, I can see where this would be beneficial, but I don't know that any of us really truly saw kind of the impact until the first group graduated and then the next group came through. And then you just, like you said, the candidates that were coming were more and more committed and had that drive, and then were obviously motivated to go get that job. And remind me and everybody else, like, what does an average welder make starting out?
Leonard may be able to give you those better, but I think most of them start about 23.
Yeah,
It's
so
that
when you-
25 range.
Yep. So when you think about, you know, somebody without any post-secondary education getting a job, you know, it's probably going to maybe be in that teens, upper teens
Right.
area, and that's not necessarily a skilled job. And so now you have somebody who have skills. You can't take those away from somebody. So it's a gift to them that they've worked hard for.
Yep.
And they can continue to, you know, grow themselves and maybe get into a higher level job or something that's more complicated or whatever. And so the opportunities ahead of them are much greater than.
And just
that
one more story I want to give you.
Yeah.
So as a reentry coach prior to taking this leadership role, I was promoted. I had an individual in my Thinking for Change class, so I instructed. He said, Scott, I deal with anger, so I work through him with that. And he's like, my goal, because we talk a lot about SMART goals, right? Achievable goals, what can you get? He said, I want to be in that welding class. He's like, I'm going to get out of this chair, I'm going to walk, and I'm going to be in that welding class. He signed an application for the next one. He's now sprinting around that pod. He's like, Scott, I'm gonna go to that welding class. They hold this to such a high esteem to get to this point because they know it's life-changing. They've seen it. They don't see their friends come back because they're changing their lives. And that's the stuff we want to be part of. This is the impactful stuff that can change. It impacts public safety. It impacts your communities. It impacts everybody. So I appreciate you guys so much for taking a chance on it. And now you guys, Southeast Tech alone holds a standard for the state when it comes to our CTE programs. You should be very proud of them.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And thank you for the teachers who got the last minute call and said yes, because maybe that's a strategy going forward, is you don't really give them a choice to think about it. You just say, here's what you're going to be doing. But your commitment means a lot too.
But we miss you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to acknowledge the collaborative initiative between Southeast Tech and the South Dakota Department of Corrections, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is acknowledged. Thank you. don't feel like you have to stay. If you have somewhere else to go, you can certainly step out. Yes, thank you.
President Ryder, members of the board, I'm Kristen Posale, I'm the Dean of Health, and I have the privilege of talking about our Healthcare Simulation Center and the ribbon cutting next week. So as you know, we have been working on the Simulation Center for a little over a year. They started construction March of '23, and we've been teaching in the center now for about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And it's been extremely exciting. So we have the Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting on Thursday, April 11th. And the invitations were sent out from Southeast Tech through hard copy and email, sent to all the chamber members, sent to all advisory members. I think we sent out about 750 invitations just from Southeast Tech. And then the chamber has another couple thousand members that they sent invitations to also. So this is a copy of the invitation. These are our Surge Tech students in one of the 4 ORs there. They are, in fact, they're very proud to be in these pictures. They asked if they could have a copy. And so we're really excited about it because this space just changes the way we will teach healthcare. It is amazing. So the agenda that afternoon, the arrival of the guests, we have President Griggs who will introduce our speakers. Dana Dykhouse will be speaking. He is the chairman of the South Dakota Board of Technical Education. And then David Fleechek from Avera Health and Paul Hansen from Sanford Health, because Avera and Sanford both donated the money to renovate the building. So all 3 of them will be speaking. We will have a ribbon cutting with Jackie Kramer and Deb Letcher, they're the associate deans, and myself, and then a few other people I'm sure will be helping with the ribbon cutting. And then we will have refreshments in the building also after that time. And then students and faculty will be showcasing the lab and simulation areas after that. So just some reminders of where we started. The drawing on the left is very, very, very rough draft that Jackie and I and the previous dean, Brittany, every night we would go home and measure out 1 foot and figure out how we could fit all these things into the building that we wanted. And then we would meet with TSP and they would say, that might work, this might work. And yeah, it was a very arduous process. And then after the building was gutted upstairs, and so this is where we are now, the front building, the signage on the front of the building. The picture on the right is the Avera Commons. And I cannot even tell you how excited students are to be in there. The first week we opened it, Jackie and I and Deb would walk around and ask students how they liked it. It's just like a hotel, they said. It's just beautiful, you know, and they're just so excited to be in there. And the Surge Tech students, you know, our Surge Tech program, we accept 48 every fall. And so their space, I think we have quadrupled their space in this building. And they actually clapped for their teachers when they got in there and said, you guys did such a fabulous job planning this. It was amazing. So talent draft day, and we have a video if we can get it to come up. We had a couple weeks ago, we had a talent draft day. And this was the first time we've been able to run an event like this. This was all faculty who ran it, but we had different professions that worked together for a patient who was brought into the emergency department and then who needed surgery. And so the talent draft day, the students who came to visit got to come over and a faculty member read them part of the scenario, and then they got to watch it in the emergency department, and then they got to go to the OR and see it. So the scenario that they ran, there was a gunshot victim. So we had one of our highly advanced simulators that we use for our cardiac cath program sitting in the ER. And this is a simulator that you can actually do CPR on it. You can shock it with the paddles and everything. And so this gentleman had come into the emergency room. He wasn't breathing. He didn't have a pulse. And so they had to start CPR on him, and they were bagging him to get him to breathe. And, you know, he had a bloody dressing on his abdomen. And so all the different professions came in there to do their thing. So somebody had to come from the lab and draw his blood, and then we could take the blood downstairs to our lab and run it down there. And then our cardiac ultrasound teacher came over, had to do an echocardiogram to see if the bullet was lodged in the heart, which it wasn't, thankfully. And then our respiratory therapist had to intubate him and put him on a ventilator, so we have a ventilator there. So the students got to watch all of this transpire. And then after he got stabilized, he was then moved to the operating room. So here we have a picture of our cardiac sonographer there, Lexi. I said, that's great ergonomics, because she just automatically did that, you know, to save her back. But, and then our law enforcement, our deputy, Jim Larson, had to be there and had to explain to the students, you know, since this was a gunshot, then we have to collect all the evidence. And our favorite line from the whole thing was Jim saying, I'm not an actor, I'm a cop. It was so funny. But the students who watched this, because they ran this scenario about 3 times for every group that came through. And it's just amazing for them to see all these professions working together. So then they went to the OR, and fortunately the abdominal surgery was successful. These are our three of our surg tech faculty, but Annie McGuire became Dr. McGuire, so she did the surgery. And these mannequins that they have in the OR, they can actually cut into them and remove fake body parts from them. And then you can repair them, stitch them back up, and use them again. So they had the fake blood, and they were able to remove the bullet, and the patient's life was saved. It was very dramatic. So here are a few pictures in the OR. President Griggs managed to stand there without passing out. Which
That doesn't look sterile to me.
Yeah, where's his mask?
It wasn't very sterile, that's true. Yeah, so we have the teacher on the left in the front there is our med lab tech teacher, and she had to come in and take the specimen when they removed it. And we have, in all 4 of our ORs, we have anesthesia machines. We don't actually administer anesthesia there, of course, but that way the students learn how they have to drape and have all that equipment there. So it was very exciting. One of the interesting things for me as a nurse is that it never occurred to me that people might kind of get lightheaded in this situation, because that doesn't bother me. But Annie McGuire said they've had several people on tours through the ORs, just even without this setup. Just being there makes them feel lightheaded. So for the open house, we're gonna make sure we have chairs sitting around in case people, you know, in case healthcare bothers them, because it looks so real. And of course, it's cold because it's the OR. So it really is like a real setting. So Eric, you wanna, so start the bottom one first is just a video of the ER. I'm not sure if the sound will come through. Oh yeah, there they are.
All right, 2 minutes. Analyze rhythm. Any pulse? No pulse. No pulse. What is that rhythm? No pulse. Okay. Do CPR.
So the nurses were taking turns doing CPR, and then we let some of the high school students come up and practice doing the CPR on them. And it's very tiring to do CPR for any length of time.
Straight out.
So that's the fun part about having the sophisticated equipment, is that we can do all of this. And they even have, when they put the scope down the throat, that's all on camera. So the respiratory therapist can see them putting the laryngoscope down. So then this is the Dakota News clip.
Address workforce challenges in the Sioux Falls area. Every year, the Technical College invites students from area school districts to take part in Talent Draft Day on campus. And here's how it works. Students attend sessions to learn about career paths in healthcare, automotive, plumbing, and HVAC fields. Then afterwards, students meet with employers hiring for those in-demand jobs.
there's about a 20-year period that we're right now smack dab in the middle of, where we're adding about 10,000 jobs in the healthcare field. We're adding another 5,000 jobs in the construction field, and that's anywhere from your nurses, your plumbers, your electricians, your welders. So a lot of great opportunity for a lot of our students and people that are looking for work.
250 students from 6 area school districts took part in that event.
So yeah.
Did you know you can't make up for lost sleep by sleep?
Worked very hard to get the clink in the pan when the bullet came out. And so for the open house, we're going to have students in all the lab areas. So we have 6 simulation rooms in this building. So we're going to have students with faculty running simulation scenarios in all of those. We're going to have students in the labs, in the medical lab tech area, and then all 4 ORs are going to be set up and draped like they're doing actual surgery in there. And then the cardiac cath lab, she has simulators where they can show the catheters being thread in. So all throughout the building, we will have students involved in the open house to showcase the building. So it's going to be a really exciting event. Questions?
Nice.
I've got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So how many of these simulation sites are around the country?
How many what? Oh, like this building? That's a good question. We know that there is not another center like this in the region. There are some on the east and west coast that are big for like big facilities. We've had a lot of people through on tours who have said they've seen a lot of simulation centers. They've never seen one like this. When we had a physician from Avera came through, he said this facility could actually, in a national emergency or a local emergency where you needed to temporarily designate a facility for real health care, this one could be, except we'd have to have real oxygen and not the fake medical air in the walls. But everyone who has seen it has said that it is absolutely state of the art, and it's designed, we have a nursing area with these 5 rooms that has a nurse's station, the ER, the cath lab, the OR, the lab downstairs. It's designed to be like a real health facility. So when you walk in, there's nobody taking your money yet, but we do have a billing program, and medical billing and coding was involved in this too, because they have to check the charting and make sure everything gets billed properly. And so really there is nothing like this in the region. And we've already been approached about who else can use this facility, just because we look forward to the collaborative events of lots of different professionals. So it's extremely exciting.
I know you've been waiting for what seems like an eternity to get in, so it's exciting to be in and kind of be past that first couple weeks of where did we put this and where do I find that and those things. And so that's exciting. And I just think about the great opportunity for our community to really utilize and have that real world experience. Sometimes clinicals are harder to get. As more and more programs pop up, it's harder for our local healthcare systems to be able to accommodate every single clinical group.
Right.
And so what a great opportunity to have a real world experience that's second to real. It's obviously best when you can have a patient, but there's also things that you can't practice on a patient that you can practice on with a simulator. And so what a great opportunity for those students. And I think you'll find that it'll be easy to recruit students. It'll probably be easy to recruit staff members, people who want to teach in such a great environment. And hopefully it'll just continue to draw new students and maybe new programs. And I think it's great to be able for people, they think nursing, but there's so many different options in healthcare that don't require nursing that are just as important. And so being able for them to see those people in action and really working together without thinking they have to go on and get, a 4-year degree and take the NCLEX and all those things. So
yeah, it's been, we had sophomore tours this week, so we've had sophomores coming through there. And it's really interesting to see how they relate to all the different people that work together. For instance, having to get that echo of the heart in the ER instead of in a private room for an ultrasound.
Yeah.
So our students will be able to experience that, go into the OR and have to do those things, because normally you don't get to do that until you get out to clinical. So the students are thrilled with it. They love being over there. And we look forward to, we can bring things across the street from our other building and have a lot of interaction with all the programs. So it really is a dream come true for us. It's very exciting.
Yeah, well, it may be standing room only next week for the open house, because I think there's a lot of people who are anxious to get in and take a look. So it'll be an exciting day. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the
Thank
update.
you.
Can I get a motion and a second to acknowledge the report for the Sim Center?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is acknowledged. Thank you. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. President Ryder, members of the board, Rich Clune, Vice President, Finance and Operations. What a great lead-in. As I talk about budget, a lot of similarities in what we're about to undertake in our process. Main thing is I don't have a sterile field, but there is some blood, and there, you know, the patient might be a little tenuous at times.
You're going to pass out on us?
Yeah, potentially. That might happen too. You know, the echo to make sure I have a heart. You know, so there are a lot of similarities as we move through the process. What you have before you is, you've seen this before. These are some guidelines coming out of HLC. And just a brief comment, many of the criteria are currently under review. And I've seen so when I pulled that up and I saw the clean version of it, I thought, woohoo, criterion 5 is gone. And then I looked at it a little closer and saw the black line version and saw they just moved 5 into 4. But so my joy was brief. So some of this will change, and in effect, what I'm seeing in the draft is a kind of a condensing of some of the requirements. And I think as we went through the HLC process and went through these things, I felt like I was answering the same question over and over again and providing similar evidence. So while I suspect next year this will look a little bit different, I think the principles of it still apply as we move forward into this next budget. But certainly the guidelines that we put before you, this very much aligns with our strategic plan, allocating resources consistent with the goals and objectives of the strategic plan, allocate resources to create a culture of continuous improvement and service excellence in support of Southeast Tech's mission. A lot of that's ongoing right now when we talk about our institutional effective days, as each area is looking at establishing goals and look for areas that they can make improvements and continue to involve. This is a good time to look at that from a financial standpoint and tie some of those objectives and things that they want to do into the budget request process. Obviously, optimize the quality of budget information available to decision makers. So that's kind of a backwards look, helping the folks that will be putting this together understand the data that they're looking at, the resources that are available to them. Again, you're driving the car forward, but you're looking out the rearview mirror. But it does provide a good basis and a stepping off point as we look to go forward. Engage stakeholders and provide areas for input. A lot of that is being done, and kind of found out that more organically as we went through that accreditation visit about how people were having those discussions that I always wasn't aware of. I wasn't part of all of them. I saw the roll up into the bigger component of it, but they did a nice job of explaining how the deans and those folks are reaching out to and getting that input, which helps build things up. Historical revenue performance and cost center expenditures. Again, that's some of that backwards looking, but where do we go with it going forward? So one of these is kind of our concept overall. There's a couple different methodologies of budgeting where you can go zero base, you tear everything down and build it back up. You can also do incremental, which is a lot of times what you see the state doing. They're incrementing from the prior year and adjusting it inflationary wise. We tend to do a method of both. What typically happens is we tend to look at it incrementally, find out, not unusual in the 28 times I've done this, that the requests are here and the revenue lines here. So we have to bring those into balance and reconcile those two components. So that's not unusual to have that happen. Next one, allocate resources efficiently, effectively, and equitably across the Institute. The equitability or the equity of it is probably always the toughest issue. Those that receive the allocation and get their request approved think it's pretty equitable. Those that don't feel it's an equitable process at all. But again, that's part of the decision-making process and setting those priorities. And you loop yourself back to that strategic plan. What gives you the greatest return? What has the greatest impact on the strategic plan? Incentivize revenue innovation and program development. Not a lot of incentives here. They might actually see me crack a smile if I see that, but they'll have to look fast to see me actually do that. But obviously, with the SIM Center, there's going to be some expanded revenue opportunities. There's new programs, and clearly out of the gate, it is going to be a bigger guess as to what we think we can do. Obviously, the admissions folks are tracking those types of things. We'll try to blend those into our conversation as we move forward. Then evaluate existing reserves and align requested expenditures with projected revenues. Again, that's that concept of trying to bring forth a balanced budget. Don't know if that'll necessarily happen this year. We'll just kind of wait and see as we get through it. Obviously, you're aware of the legislative session. We are very similar to what you experienced on a K-12 standpoint. 4% increase in our per student allocation. Our distribution formula is a little bit different. So we've looked at some of those projections, which will obviously provide some additional revenue for us. There's some growth, obviously, in some of our programs year to year over last year. That'll carry forward into these projections. And then as we start to add these expanded programs through the SIM Center and some of the other different types of modeling that we're running, I think we can generate some additional revenue associated with that as well. The other challenge that, probably a challenge that comes into it's in a good problem to have. In this current budget year, our equipment funding was funded by GOED, Governor's Office of Economic Development, but there wasn't a match required to that. So next year in FY25, the state appropriated money, but it requires a 33% match. So that's a line item that wasn't there before, that we're going to have to either program through those existing revenues, or that may be where we step back into those reserves and look at it as kind of one-time funding to leverage that amount of money that the state's going to use. Probably the second greatest challenge we'll have to do, and you've heard this conversation of the tuition freeze that's put in place. That was part of the negotiation and exchange to provide a 4% across the board salary increase for all of our faculty and full-time staff. In doing that, well, the funding mechanism and the way that works, it's not a dollar for dollar support from the state. So we'll need to come up with some funds on our own to be able to pull that up there. So those, as I'm standing out here today projecting what's going to happen over the next 6 weeks, those are probably a couple of the bigger challenges, but certainly not insurmountable. And then timelines. It's a pretty quick timeline, and I appreciate the willingness to back up to the end of May. That gives us a little more time to stare at the ceiling and come up with some solutions for some of these things. But I found that the longer you swirl on it, sometimes the further you get away from where you need to be. So trying to condense that and being very precise in our methodology. Clearly, not unlike K-12, a lot of the dollars are tied to wages and benefits. We're already having those discussions about staff to bring on. Some positions can be funding through additional revenue streams. Some of them are not, but they serve an important role. So that's where you'll get the ones that don't think it's equitable when we get to that point of what positions could we fund, what positions can't we fund. We'll walk through it. These are all the same elements. Next week, I'll give some brief background information to the various deans and the various leadership group that'll be involved with it. That's kind of that historical foundation going forward as they start to get with their program areas and start to look. And it's also a good thing leading into an audit. That's where you kind of clean up things and go, why is this like this? Oh, we've got something in the wrong account. So kind of serves two purposes going into the year. Obviously, we're hoping to have the final adoption at the annual meeting that we all have in July. But if for some reason something totally misses the mark, we do have until the end of September by statute to adopt it. But clearly we want to stay on track with that. The tentative adoption towards the end of the May, I suspect there'll be some revisions once we get to that final adoption, but that should give us enough time to get through it. So that's a very high level, quick and dirty about what we're planning for our budget process. Know that it's already underway, starting to look at the different revenue sources, starting to put together some of that analysis, both revenue and expenditure side, to get people starting to look at it and start making some of those hard decisions. Stand by for any questions anybody has.
I just had kind of a quick question. You were mentioning, potential revenue things with the new Sim Center. Do we have, I probably should know this, but do we have a standard like facility contract, facility use contract, and have we thought about what that might look like for the Sim Center, and what parts of the Sim Center would we, obviously we want it to be well taken care of, and we want to have the building respected and, things like that. So I'm just curious if we have something like that.
Yeah, we do have rental rates, but we haven't factored into that Sim Center into there yet. We have been overly generous, I would say, with the utilization of the facilities, recognizing that they are public facilities. Sim Center is a little different in the way that that's structured. Those buildings that are held by the Health and Education Facility Authority, bond documents actually have some requirements in there that the revenue from renting the facilities, they're supposed to make its way back to the authority. So we're not generating a lot of revenue overnight. So state agencies come in, we're gratuitous use of that. We see some advantages in those partnerships. President has the authority to waive as necessary. So a lot of it's partnership building, and it's that opportunity source of it. I think when you look at that Sim Center, that's a whole different situation than what we want to do. And I think you raise a good point about maybe the Boy Scouts don't get to come in and hit buttons at night, and nothing against the Boy Scouts, but you have to be cautious about the utilization of it and make sure there's a significant investment in the equipment by the state, and a significant investment by our health partners in that facility as well. So we want to make sure that it maintains that state-of-the-art type of facility. So I'm saying in a roundabout way, we don't want to give it away, but we also are serving a public purpose too. So we have to find that balance. And that's absent from our rental policy right now. So we will have to sit down and look at that.
Sure. Thank you. I think it looks like a very reasonable timeline. Of course, I'm not the one making the budget, so I can say that. But I think you have it laid out nicely, and we can certainly, I think it works just fine for us to meet at the end of May and kind of do that tentative adoption at that point. So
yeah, and I'll promise not to take the full 6 hours of the meeting time with the budget presentation.
Perfect.
Yeah, no.
Perfect.
That'd be good.
I will hold you to that. Does anybody have any questions on the timeline at all?
Nope.
All right. Good. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the FY25 budget guidelines and timeline, please?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Graduation already, my goodness.
You know that you're low on the totem pole when you have to follow the finance guy, but President Ryder, members of the board, it's very nice to be with you today to give you an update about graduation, but there is something else that I'm going to go off agenda a little bit here. This week, we start our academic advising and registration days for the new students for fall semester. And we've been doing these for 7 years now. And Bob remembers when this first started, and I was hoping for a tornado to wipe out campus or to win the lottery, so I didn't have to be there because it was very overwhelming getting all these set up. But I am very proud to say that we will be having 350 new students Friday and Saturday on campus to register for their classes. And we find that these students that are the early birds are really our high flyers. They're those ones that they're committed, and so we're excited to have them and to welcome them all to campus this weekend. So going from brand new students to graduating our class, so just to recap, our ceremony details are the 5th of our Friday, May 3rd at 5 o'clock, Sioux Falls Arena again. Tony Knorr from First Premier is our keynote, and the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, Forward Sioux Falls, will be awarded the 2024 Industry Sponsor of the Year. Now this is where the fun stuff comes in. So these are the numbers for our candidates for graduation for spring and summer. And so this is a duplicated count because we do have some students that are double majors, you know, like in our engineering programs. And once I put all this together and I looked at the December grads, adding those in from December of 23, we're looking at about 995 grads this year. So it's very exciting to see that, and that aligns with the Board of Tech Ed's, you know, challenge out there for us as well. So I do want to just put out there that I think Dawn Marie has committed to being at graduation ceremony. If anybody else would like to be there, just let Vicki know and she'll let me know. All right. Okay. Any questions?
No, another great year
Yes.
of graduating students, and exciting that a lot of these students probably already have jobs.
Yes.
And in their field, which is exactly what we want to help to solve some of
our mission.
Workforce issues, and help them really feel like their education was valuable, and they can put it right to use. So exciting time for us to graduate and send them out into the world, and exciting time for the community to accept them and put them to work. So
Definitely. I agree.
yes, so graduation, I will check. I think I plan to be there, but we will let you know, or we'll let Vicki know for sure.
That's wonderful. We would love to have you there.
Yes, thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
report.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion and a second to acknowledge the graduation update, please?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is acknowledged. Anything else to come before us? No? All right. Can I get a motion and a second for adjournment, please?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.